right. So we're picking up with Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play. And I think we're on page 555. Does that sound right? Holy Mother returns to Calcutta.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Is what I have. Is that what
Good.
people have?
That's my little clip fell off. All right. Holy Mother returns to Calcutta. So we've been following her around with her devotees here for a while. She's been sick. She's recovered. We've seen how she really made every effort to treat all of her children as her children, that not taking regard of caste or nationality or religion into account, but that she's equally motherly to the Muslims and to the Americans and to the Hindus and of all the different styles of Hinduism. And now Mother's heading back to Calcutta. It says, one morning, Sarada bowed down to Holy Mother and said, Mother, this time we shall not return to Calcutta without you. You will have to come with us. She did not object. She only said, but my son, before I go to Calcutta, I shall restart my journey from Jairambati. On the 29th of April, Sarada arranged a palanquin for the mother, and everyone went with her to Jairambati. The villagers came to see her and said, Mother, we almost lost hope that we would see you again. We are extremely happy that you are well. Somehow that reminds me of my situation. You know, we'd almost lost hope to see each other again. But I'm extremely happy to see you are well. Indeed, that is the truth also. This time I really suffered from a terrible fever, she replied. Sharat, Kanjilal, and others came. I got well by the grace of Mother Simhavahini. Sharat is asking me to go to Calcutta. If all of you approve, I shall go and recuperate there. Everyone consented. When Holy Mother was sick in Koalpara, Radu left for Tajpur with her husband. You know, I like that idea. The mother put it out there for everybody, that she really saw that she belonged to everyone. You know, and of course, everyone agreed. But I'm sure in their heart of hearts, quite a few of them would have liked her to stay there. But everyone consents. And when Holy Mother was sick in Koalpara, Radu left for Tajpur with her husband. Now, the mother sent Brahmachari Bharata to Radu to ask if she wanted to go with her to Calcutta. Radu came to Jairambati to meet the Holy Mother, but declined to go with her to Calcutta. The day before Holy Mother left Jairambati, Brahmachari Bharata caught some fish from the Punya Pupur. Saradananda encouraged him to catch more. Then he suggested that Bharata show those fish to Holy Mother and to invite all members of her family for lunch. Holy Mother's brothers had high regard for Saradananda. Knowing that it was Saradananda's wish, the mother was very pleased. It was a grand feast. The mother stood near the door and watched them eat with great joy. You know, that's the motherly thing to do, stand there and watch everybody enjoy the food that she no doubt prepared. On the 5th of May, 1918, Holy Mother left Jairambati by palanquin. She stopped in Koalpara that night. Saradananda and the others continued to Vishnupur by bullock cart, but a horse carriage was brought from Vishnupur for the mother because her body was weak. On the 6th morning, she left Koalpara and arrived at Sureshwar Sen's house in Vishnupur by 11 o'clock that morning. The next day, on the 7th of May, 1918, Holy Mother had her party left Vishnupur by train and reached Udbodhan at 8 o'clock that night. Sarada recalled the details of the trip. A date was fixed for our return to Calcutta. From Jairambati, the mother left by palanquin, and we went by bullock cart to Koalpara, where we halted a day. Revered Sharat Maharaj hired 2 horse carriages from Bankura, paying 30 rupees, so that the mother might not suffer during the journey to Vishnupur. A bullock cart was arranged for Nalini, Laku, and Mandakini. A bed was made by placing a box between the seats of the horse carriage, and some pillows were put on the side so that the mother could comfortably recline on it. The mother commented, "Look what a beautiful arrangement Charlotte has made." On her way, the mother stopped at one place. At that time, there was no horse carriage in that area, so hearing the noise, the villagers assembled on both sides of the road. The carriage arrived at Vishnupur at 11 o'clock in the morning. Sureshwar Sen's house was in a lane decorated with banana trees and mango leaves and auspicious paintings on the ground. Devotees were assembled on both sides of the lane, as if they were waiting to worship a divine image. The mother got down from the horse carriage and reached Sureshwar's house by palanquin. The mother entered her assigned room, took out the master's picture from the tin box, worshipped him, and offered naivedya on sal leaves, and then said, "I'm hungry. Please serve me some food." The next day, we left Vishnupur at 11 o'clock in the morning and reached Howrah after evening. A carriage was waiting, and we safely reached Udbodhan House. There's a couple of beautiful things in there. One, when she left, she took everyone's permission, that everyone had to approve that she was leaving and going to Calcutta. But when she arrives, the very first thing is to take out the master's picture and offer a worship, and then to take care of getting some food and whatnot. This is good. This is very timely for me, kind of seeing how to proceed in a right way, and going forward. That I see her concern because, her relationship with everyone was very sweet. And she just naturally held people in her heart and really cared about them. And so she understood. She understood and she took care of all that in such a sweet way, but always knew that the most important thing was to take out the master's picture. That she always had that shrine that was the same. That was her steadiness, that relationship with the divine, which was the unchanging for her. And that her needs, getting food and that came after everything else, after she had taken care of everyone and established the master's picture and sat down and worshiped him for the first time in the new place. Then she went about the business of eating and whatnot like that. All right, we're on chapter 29. Anybody else want to add anything to that or have anything to say about these things? No.
Oh,
Chapter
you're
20.
right. Tommy, you're
What?
right. This is an example on how to travel.
Yes, a very nice example.
First things,
And you just see there's no resistance on her part, she's asked to go to Calcutta. She's like, okay, but my only request is that I leave from Jairambati, which I imagine, does anybody know the tradition behind that? There's probably some sort of idea of leaving from your hometown as if that's where you would always return to, some sort of connection that doesn't get lost. So that'll be good. I might use that this morning when I have my meeting to try and get my 2 months. I'll use this saying, no, mother had to take the leave of all of her companions. She had to get their approval and leave that, and she had to leave from Jairambati with the place that she intended to return to or take care of. And so I have to try and make my case for that. She's arming me. All right. Chapter 29, Udbodhan, the mother's house. That's right here in Calcutta. Be gracious, O mother, we humbly beseech you. who are ever affectionate to your children, please soothe our burning hearts by pouring one drop of your infinite love into them. And that's the truth right there, that infinite love. You only need to barely touch that within you. You know, I see it as deep inside the heart, there's a wire that's bare, that doesn't have any insulation on it. And, you know, we follow our mantra, which is kind of the cord that leads. And as you're doing your mantra and you're getting closer and closer to the heart, at some point, definitely accidentally, because interestingly enough, it's never on purpose. You know, that's the very interesting thing. I'm seeing that in the way that this travel is happening for me. And I'm understanding in spiritual life that the goal is always byproduct. It's never the thing that you're going after. Because the ultimate thing that we're going after cannot be objectified. It can't be placed in front of us. And so it can't be the object of our pursuit. You know, and so it's almost always accidentally that you stumble on a spiritual experience, that it's always unexpected. And it's always just a matter of happenstance. And you never know how to get back because it really didn't happen because of what you were doing or because of what you wanted or where you were trying to get. It's always byproduct. And that's why I've started talking about life, not so much as the goal of life, but the byproduct of life. That if you live your life in the company of the beloved, you know, of course, with the hope in the heart that union will come. That union won't come if you seek it directly, because the ideal of Vedanta is freedom, which is to seek nothing outside of yourself for your strength and for your contentment and for your being. And so even the pursuit of mother is only external initially. In the beginning, we start pursuing mother. But in the end, closer to as we move forward, we're no longer seeking for mother. We're enjoying mother because we come to understand the nature of grace. We come to begin to have faith in grace, and we understand that mother is here, and that we find her not because we looked for her and not because we searched for her, but because she was always present. But we never allowed ourselves the gall to imagine that we had an intimate audience with the divine always in all of the conditions that we went through. But that's the veil, you know, that veil of Maya is the belief that we are separate and that we've done something to be separate and that we deserve our separateness. And we think that the condition of our mind is the condition of ourself. And so we judge and are motivated according to the condition of our mind. And we can't accept or believe the truth that we are not the mind because it's a very subtle understanding. And the mind is gross, but not as gross as body, which is attached to through the mind, you know. And so this getting just a drop of this infinite holy bliss is really all that's there. That there will come a time for each one of us where you accidentally touch that live wire, and that live wire carries pure love through it, just like, you know, the wire in the wall carries that 110 volts or 220 volts of electricity. When you touch it, you don't forget it. It leaves an experience, that leaves a mark behind that you never forget. It's always fresh and always there. You just don't ever forget what happened to you. And it always, again, happens accidentally. So each time you sit down to meditate, or each time that you think of God or realize that you're saying the mantra, understand that that's potentially the time that it will happen. because it's never the result of a work. It's never the result of a cause. It's always the result of grace, which always comes as the most beautiful exception to everything else you're thinking or doing. You know, grace is counter to your planning, to your scheming, to your idea of self. It always comes in from an angle that you're not looking for, and always catches you completely unguarded, and makes it all the way to the target, all the way to the center of your being, all the way to your heart, because it comes from that angle that you weren't expecting, that you weren't watching for. So grace comes when you know your defenselessness, and when you've become utterly unguarded, to protect your fear of not being accepted by God, or whatever your story is about why you haven't seen God. Which is interesting to ask your mind that. Mind, why haven't I seen God? Listen to what it tells you, and then toss it. Write it down on a piece of paper and burn it in the shrine. And know that you are somewhere within you enjoying realization at that very moment, but are as of yet unaware of it, just like you're unaware of your big toe on your left foot until I mention it to you. So it's like that. So Udbodan's house. Ramakrishna said to Holy Mother, "Look at the people of Calcutta. They're like worms squirming in darkness. You must bring light to them." In 1909, when Udbodan House was built in North Calcutta, Holy Mother began to fulfill the Master's command in earnest. People came to her for spiritual awakening, not only from Calcutta, but also from all over India and even from Europe and America. In fact, Udbodan House, which is also called Mayar Bari, or Mother's House, became an oasis for suffering souls and seekers of God. Many important events are connected with Udbodan House. Several distinguished people met Holy Mother at this house. For example, Aurobindo Ghosh, one of the greatest Indian revolutionaries, met the Mother there on Sunday in 1910 and sought her blessing. His wife, Mrinalini Devi, and his mother also came to Udbodan House to receive the Mother's blessing. 3 young men who were connected with the freedom movement in India regularly visited the Mother in Calcutta. They later became her disciples and joined the Ramakrishna order, eventually becoming Swamis Pragyanananda, Chinmayananda, and Atma Prakashananda. Also, Sister Nivedita and Sister Christine often visited Holy Mother in Udbodan House. The Mother initiated innumerable devotees there. The name of Holy Mother's Calcutta house is very significant. Swami Vivekananda started 3 journals during his lifetime. Brahmavadin in 1985, in English, the Prabhuda Bharata in 1898, and Udbodan in 1899 in Bengali. The Bengali word Udbodan means awakening. These journals were meant to disseminate the message of Ramakrishna and the universal teachings of Vedanta. Swamiji wanted to use the Udbodan magazine to awaken the divine consciousness that lies dormant within human beings. Perhaps Swamiji had an intuition that one day Holy Mother would awaken the spiritual consciousness of many people from Udbodan House. You see, it's important how we talk about these things. You see the hint that he just gave us a whole bunch of hints. And unfortunately, because of our familiarity with the way that it's described, we didn't understand it the first time that we read it. We didn't understand it when we heard it. And so we've made up a meaning for the way that we talk about these things. You see here, he always says, Swamiji wanted to use Udbodan to awaken the divine consciousness that lies dormant within human beings. You know, that means that this divine consciousness is being conscious, you know, fully conscious of divinity. What divinity? The divinity that you've left lying within you unconsciously. something that you're not paying attention to, something that you don't pick up and own because you've owned the mind and the body, and that's all you can carry. And so first we have to set down the body, and then we have to set down the mind. And then we become aware of this divine, of this consciousness of the divine, which is our natural state. You know, I mentioned the last time, and it's been very interesting this week. You know, when a movie's being played, you can talk about it from either end. You can talk about being the screen. That's the devotee. You know, the devotee is the screen, and the light of consciousness plays the movie of Maya on you. But you can also think about it from the other end, that you are that light of consciousness, and that this movie, this constant flow of change that you're witnessing, is the role of film going through the light of the moment that you are. So you are never moving. This world's movement is rushing through you. And because of your divine light, because of that consciousness within, it's shining on the mind. And we're watching the movie play on the mind. But we're not moving, and we're not changing. We're allowing the moment to pass through us, which is why we're always here and now. You know, we experience being in Calcutta, we experience being in San Francisco, we experience being in Colorado and Denver and all these places. But where are we always? We're always here, and we're always now. That never changes. And that is the divine consciousness. That is God as the absolute unchanging. That is God, the container of all attributes, all possibilities. That is pure potential. And to just sit and concentrate on that for a moment has been a practice this week. I always have my pet practice for the times I'm in, but my practice this week has been to hold on to the unchanging, because it's just been a whirlwind of change. That I you know, changes that implied my entire lifestyle and everything. And I just couldn't take it. You know, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind in this environment. And so, you know, I was in the shrine with Thakur probably about 8 days ago. And I caught a flicker of this. You know, I had that jolt, I touched that bare wire for a moment, where I experienced my stillness. I experienced my unmoving nature, that part of me which has been sitting there watching lifetime after lifetime after lifetime pass through it, and has seen and sat in silence and stillness in that divine presence, in its own divine presence, inundated by it, and just watching for eons, if you measure from the screen side, but never leaving now from the light side, from the light of consciousness. And that's our reality, you know, to try to come to know that you're not in the day. That's what that means. You're not on the screen that you're watching. You're the light that's enabling the change to be reflected in front of you. You're the light that is allowing you to be aware of change, of the colors, of all the senses and its menagerie of description. And to be that for a moment, because there's a great, great, great stillness there, a profound peace there. And it's a beautiful place from which to watch the body drop, to watch one after another bodies come and go for you, and to have a non-experience experience of just knowing that all of this is fleeting. Everything that you can experience is unreal. And that which is real is the light within you that is always here and always now, illuminating the change, illuminating this unrepeating cycle of constant change. And then he says that Holy Mother would awaken the spiritual consciousness, right? And what is spiritual consciousness? It's consciousness of being spirit. It's being conscious of spirit, of you as spirit, that you are this light, which, spirit is light. You can think of it that way. It's everywhere all at once, illuminating everything. Without it, there is no life in the universe. Without light, there is no energy. There's no heat. There's no being. And so you are that light which illumines your mind, which is what allows you to see your dreams and your waking state alike. You're not the colors and the sounds and the tastes and the smells. You are that which experiences or can experience through this mind, through this body, all the things that your inner light show you. And to bring your attention to that is to awaken your consciousness of being spirit, that you are not a body, never were. You've watched probably thousands of them go by, right? And that's all you have of the relation to them. The body is nothing more than a reflected image that just goes by your awareness. Birth, it comes into your awareness, and death, it flows out of your awareness. And you become aware of the next thing as it comes into awareness and then passes out of awareness. And that you've been doing this forever. And that you only have to pretend that you don't know how to meditate because you've never done anything but meditate. You've always been watching, even though you've confused yourself with all sorts of actions and plans and cause and effects, which aren't real. You've always just been observing, but you've been observing something of an infinite beauty, something that requires the infinite potential of change to express itself because it cannot be trapped. It cannot be defined. It can't be put in a net to be held onto. Even though we make that experience, that's what samskaras are. When we actually try and catch the butterfly in the net and hold on to it. And the problem with catching butterflies in the nets is that they almost always get destroyed. So anyway, it's good to pay attention to the way we talk about these things because we betray ourselves always. We use the right words, actually. If you think about phrases that we use in our language, it shows us our true nature. Inspired by Swamiji, Swami Trigunatitananda bought a press to publish Udbodhan. Besides the journal, the publication office produced Swami Vivekananda's works in English and Bengali. Until 1908, Udbodhan Press did not have a permanent home. It functioned from a devotee's house or in a rented office space. We're very familiar with that, especially in Colorado. So you see these things that have become institutions, started out in someone's living room, started out in someone's house. Swami Vivekananda wrote to Swami Shivananda from America in 1894. We must first build a mott, a monastery for the mother. I shall show how to worship the living Durga, and then only shall I be worthy of my name. I shall be relieved when you have purchased a plot of land and established there the living Durga, the mother. The wish of a knower of Brahman is always fulfilled. Sharadananda was fortunate to be able to fulfill Swamiji's wish and at the same time to give Udbodhan Press a permanent home. I love that emphasis, that emphasis, that emphasis on the living Durga. That the living God is the God that we see all around us, the God of each other. And if you want to worship, if you feel weird sitting in front of an image, then don't. Look at the first living being that you're in front of and worship. Offer something to them. Give them a piece of candy. Pick a flower for a stranger. I saw the most beautiful YouTube video the other day. It was a guy there was a man just sitting on a park bench, and he was rather pensive. And this other guy walks by and hands him a rose, asks him to hold the rose, and he bends down to tie his shoe. And when he stands up, He smiles at the man and walks away without taking the rose back. And the camera stays on the man sitting on the bench holding this rose. And, you know, for a man, men are never given flowers. Or, you know, very, very rarely. And you see him standing there holding this flower and processing it. And the man begins to weep. He, he got so touched by a stranger giving him a flower and walking away. No requirements, no needs, nothing, just here for you. It brought a grown man to tears on a park bench, just that act. And I think that's an act of worship to the living God. You know, that's what you're doing when you're tossing a flower on the shrine, you know. And here you see Vivekananda's real interest in awakening us to the living God, to the living Durga, the living reality. You know, by beginning to walk around this world in worship, handing flowers to strangers, giving out candy to random people, sitting down and asking people just out of the blue, are you okay? Is everything all right with you? How's your life going right now? You know, and just instantly being intimate without playing the game, without assuming that we're not intimate. Assume intimacy with people, assume love for people. This is what it is, you know, this is what Vivekananda says was his purpose for us, to awaken us to the living deity, to the God that lives, breathes, and moves and surrounds us in every way. That's spiritual awakening. That's spiritual consciousness. It's not a mystical, philosophical state of something unreachable and rare. It's more common than air. It's more common than space. It's just that we never ever become conscious of it because we're trying to carry so many things in a body and a mind at once that we can't see it. And he says, I shall show how to worship the living Durga, and then only shall I be worthy of my name. Construction began in late 1907, but soon ran into difficulties. The publication fund was enough to pay only for the foundation of the building. So Sharadananda borrowed 5,700 rupees from different devotees, but that was still not enough. Some distinguished devotees then came forward to complete the project. Udbodhan Press moved to its new home in November of 1908. This kind of brings an interesting thing forward. How do we live our life responsibly and taking these flights of faith? You know, it's in one aspect, you know, my mind wants to chastise him. It's like, well, gosh, you should have counted the cost initially first and come up with the money before you started doing that. You ran a danger of not being able to finish what you started. But you see how if you're doing it through faith, which means you do save up enough for what you think is necessary, enough to begin the work, but then you go forward trusting that the divine presence is real and the divine presence is in you. And as long as your motives are not egotistical, as long as they're not coming from a place of your desire, but coming from that place of inspiration within you, then you can know Mother will provide. Mother will cover the thing. And so our goal, if there's a goal, or returning to, let's say instead of our goal, our returning to self is that, letting go of our egotistical approach to the world, which makes us responsible for everything, and become irresponsible. But irresponsible because we're inspired by a very dependable guide, a very dependable compass, our nature of pure love, our nature of deep wisdom, our nature of being, and to sit there. And that brings another goofy little thing I've been working on. You know, I'm having to sit on the floor for a good amount of time every day, and I'm not used to that. I can't sit We even call it Indian style. I can't even sit Indian style on the floor for more than 20 minutes without. Well, first the back starts hurting, but by the end of it, if I don't get up, eventually everything hurts. Things I didn't even know I had hurt. And but I learned something. I learned that if you just be aware in a neutral way, not like you're not trying to do something, but if you just become neutrally aware of the workings of your inner body, it will teach you how to sit. You listen very carefully, and as you just put awareness, like I found that I just put awareness on where the stuff is in my body that's hurting, and then I just give it the body responsibility for fixing it. It's like, okay, and it's amazing how much tension I became aware of that was under my scope of seeing, and releasing that, I got kind of a little bit more of a curve to my back. I found that instead of sitting like this, which was my tendency, my head straightened up, my chin pulled in a little bit, and then I realized that most of the pain is coming because my, whatever muscle it is that goes around your hip bone when you sit down, that muscle wasn't long enough to sit, to allow my back to start going vertically immediately, that it made my back go out at a little bit of an angle. And I became aware of that just by giving my body permission to do what it needed to get comfortable, to stop the back pain from happening. And just that awareness and the permission, not going in and trying to fix any of it, just going inside, becoming aware, and then letting the body take care of itself without trying to fix it. I found that as I started, when I would bow down, I would do my Ashtanga Pranam, but then I would get sitting and I would bow down from my sitting position. And I found that by doing that every day, that it's lengthened that muscle so that I can sit straight up, and the pain it's not completely gone, because I think there's a vertebrae. I'm sure you want this attention, all this detail in the class on mother's life, but there's a vertebrae out of place back there, and I can actually feel it. I actually know where it is, and it's causing the curve in my upper back to hurt. And so I know that when I get back, I'll get that fixed. But I'm talking about this spiritual awareness, which is not an egotistical awareness. So it doesn't have a purpose. You're not doing it for anything. You're just allowing yourself to become very aware of the moment and your experience of the moment, and aware of yourself sitting in it as not the doer. And knowing that you're not the doer is what prevents egoism from occurring. It's what sets you free, actually. And when you realize that the body can take care of itself, if you just put your awareness there and allow it to do what needs to be done, allow it to communicate, it will teach you how to sit, and it will fix the problems, and it will take care of it. And the mind as well. So you don't have to become anything. You don't have to become a nice person. You will manifest the nice person that you are. You don't have to do any work except stopping the belief that you're not already what you are, which seems obvious. How could you have been anything else, right? How could you have been anything else but what you are? It's just that we're so perplexed by not knowing the answer to that question, simply for the reason that that question can't be answered in words. What you are is what you are when nothing is telling you. And it can't be phrased. It can't be caught in the net. And it's hard to accept that we are undefinable, that we don't have an attribute or a set of attributes, that we are the potential of every attribute. And I believe that we, when you come to know that this watcher within you has watched you take on and slough off every possible attribute. Every possible attribute. It's you dreaming from the point of awareness of every object in your dream. When you put that in time, you do one at a time, and you go through karma and you learn it. But the reality of it is you're doing everything all at once. You are the point of reference of every object in your dream simultaneously. That's why there is no story. Story requires not knowing. something that has to be told. But the story stops when you know that the story, that you're aware of the story from the perspective of every possible vantage point. And if that's true, then you innately know in the moment the whole story already. Nothing has to be told because nothing is missing. And so this is what happens as we mature in meditation. We let go and let go and let go, and we become aware. Our awareness spreads, expands. You know, we don't have to then think, oh, my left toe, oh, my right elbow. We become aware of left toe and elbow while we're walking, while we're biking, while we're whatever, you know. It's this ever expanding consciousness of what we are. And it comes by just chanting the name of God, because that is God. And for a while, God is out there. But before long, he's in there. And then before long, the embrace becomes a bit more than what the physical limitation allows. And then you begin to realize that your thoughts are coming from God and being heard by God. And you come to know there never was a listener and a speaker, that it was always happening simultaneously in a singularity that never was in time, never shrouded, never necessary. All right, am I going on too long? No. Good. All right. Description of the mother's house. Well, here's a picture of it. This is about that blurring on. Let me turn the blurring off. Now you can see the true beauty of this again. That's the Bodon house. It is quite the building. Mother stayed upstairs. She had a lovely room, and on top of the building is a lovely deck, walking area out there. Udbodhan House, or Mayarbari, Mother's House, is now a branch of the Ramakrishna Monastery. The center is located at 1 Udbodhan Lane in Bagbazar. Originally, there were 6 rooms on the first floor, 3 rooms on the second, and 1 room on the third floor to the right side of the staircase. The main entrance is to the north, and next to the kitchen, there is a small back door to the south. A narrow lane, Gopal Chandra Yogi Lane, runs behind the house. And that's probably one of these narrow, they're all over here, actually. I've been taking walks outside the monastery walls, and you come down these little lanes that, if somebody else tries to pass you, you both have to put your shoulders against the wall to pass each other. And they widen, they narrow, they twist in odd ways. It's quite adventurous just to walk around. Nothing is as predictable, and nothing's in a grid. At the left side of the entrance, there's a small room which was occupied by Sarada. It was his parlor and office, as he was the general secretary of the Ramakrishna order until 1927. He wrote most of Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, Sri Ramakrishna and his Divine Play, in this room from 1909 to 1919, and thus paid off the loan assumed for building Udbodhan House. It's got a footnote here. It says, once Shadarananda said, I took a loan of 11,000 rupees for building the mother's house. It was a heavy burden on my shoulders. I paid off the debt by selling books. This Udbodhan house was built to keep mother in Calcutta. She was our focal point, and centered on her, I did all my work in a joyful mood. There's there in the footnote, another great clue. How to have a joyful life, how to do joyful work, is to always have it mother-centered, always awareness of the divine presence, always having everything that you do a conversation with the beloved. Someone commented that I guess it was Anne was saying last week or something. She emailed or texted me. She said, I'm going to call you the laughing Swami, and that's a gift from mother. I definitely have not always been that way. It's a gift of having that constant conversation with mother, because mother is reality. And you see how absurd most things can be seen as absurd when looked from a divine perspective. When we look from that perspective of what really we are, what really we can be, you know, and just enjoying that, you know, catching yourself being ignorant, catching yourself not paying attention to a truth. Anyway, I've got a story for when we're not being recorded at some point. I won't. I'm not going to go there until I turn the recorder off. But so yeah, so he says that he built it for mother, and that she was his focal point. Well, what does that mean? He wasn't focusing on the work. He was focusing on the mother. So the work was being but through mother. You know, he was reaching through the image of the mother to do all of the work. It was a matter of conversation, a matter of constant seeking of permission and knowing, a constant surrendering of how things are and how they're changing. And always a playfulness, knowing that in the end, it's just for fun. There's no other reason. That's why they call it mother's play, the Leela Prasanga, you know, the play of the mother. For that reason, your life is a game, and it's one that you wrote. You know, it's the one you put the scriptures in it for yourself. You put yourself in it and all your troubles. You designed the game, and you did such a good job that you can't get out of it. But you took that into account as well. To the right of the entrance, there are two rooms, one for the Udbodhan publication office and the other for workers and the mother's monastic attendants. At night, the monks slept on the floor of these two rooms. The other three rooms at the back were used as the kitchen, the storeroom, and the men's dining room. Sharadananda and the men devotees ate downstairs, and the mother and her women companions ate upstairs in the room adjacent to hers. The small room below the marble staircase was used as a storeroom for the shrine. Now this is for the ladies here. I know that, like in San Francisco, the women often felt slighted, you know, because all the men could spend all that time with Swami Prabhupada, and they would always have to schedule an appointment, you know, so they missed out on a lot of that. And here you see the nature of it. You know, here the women are getting to live with Holy Mother in her quarters and spend all of their time with her, and the men are in the basement, sleeping on the floor. So you see, it's not a patriarchal or a matriarchal thing. It's just the nature of the beast. You know, that things arranged the way they are, and so don't get caught up in things like that as being too important. You know, don't let yourself feel too slighted. It's a play of circumstance and not a statement of any kind. And so also know that those people who have pushed past those barriers often get rewarded in very nice ways, and simultaneously get scolded. You know? But even the scoldings, you can see they're smiling about it inside. All right. On the 18th of December, 1909, a small plot of land adjacent to the east of the house was purchased for 1,850 rupees. Gosh, that's almost as much as a nice meal now in Calcutta. In 1915, an addition was constructed there with one room on the first floor and another on the second. A narrow wooden staircase attached to the eastern wall connected the two. The men's bathroom was below the staircase, and another bathroom was to the left of the main staircase. This is one of the advantages of coming here, is that as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, that's what that was. The Udbodhan publication office was moved to the lower room of the news section, and the upper room became Sharadananda's bedroom. The Swami stayed in his office from morning till night and went to sleep after supper. During this period, another room was constructed on the third floor to the north of the staircase. Holy Mother used to sit on the cement roof next to this room and dry her hair in the sun. You can go and stand on that very patio and look down, actually. That's why I learned something very important about Calcutta from standing up there and looking down. Because when you're down on the ground, you think that Calcutta is a city of narrow, little tiny passageways that are mostly shanty shacks on both sides, you know, and it's very crowded and very overbearing. But when you get up above and look down, you see that it used to be wide boulevards with these beautiful homes fronting on these wide boulevards. But during the partition, you know, in a very short amount of time, we're talking a month or two, almost millions. I heard someone say 11 million at one point. People flooded into the city, taking refuge when partition happened, when you know, the national lines were drawn. And all of that crowding of the boulevards that became these shanty houses all happened because of the immigration of 11 million uneducated people suddenly having to come in and make a home for themselves. And that Calcutta has never really quite recovered from that, because Calcutta was less than 1 million people in and of itself at that time. You know, so it absorbed something 10 times its size. And it still bears those marks. And so it really opens your heart. Because when I got here as a Westerner, there's a lot of judging. We tend to judge on externals quite a bit. At least I did on my first few visits here. But when I got up above and looked down and I saw the story, I saw what had happened, I became much more understanding. And I feel like I've finally come to a place now in watching how this whole experience is unfolded, that I understand that Bellarmont runs the way it runs, not because of Indian culture, not because of a lack of awareness on how to administrate, but because everybody here is practicing non-egoism. You know, and so with non-egoism, you can't have a person stand up and say, this is there, and you go there, and this happens here, and that happens here. Everybody is listening and going forward simultaneously, and letting things unfold. And I've experienced this last 2.5, 3 weeks, I guess, almost 4 weeks. If I were to look at it as, instead of coming here to get my new posting, if I had understood that I was coming to be unfolded, I would have understood much more what was going on. I would have seen much better. And so I offer that, you know, I think I encourage you to live in the world, not as a matter of goal-oriented, I'm doing this to get this, but to a constant allowing the world to unfold you and let you discover ever deeper aspects of yourself each time a layer gets unfolded, gets opened up. And that life is not taking you somewhere. That puts everything outside of yourself, and that's eternal hunger. Life is unfolding you, and your spiritual practice is unfolding you until that very raw, vulnerable, loving center is visible to you and experienceable to you. I thought it's time to stop. So let me